I'm not going to get in. I think probably some things are maybe taken a little bit out of context, or too far. But again, the focus has been on the team. Matt's focus is on the team, how we can be better. So we got to figure out how we can have better results. Going forward.
Mike Budenholzer, the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, after they lose their season finale in Sacramento, wrapping up, and Jarrett wrote up the tease, the most disappointing season in Suns history. I don't even think there's a debate. This was, woof.
No, I agree with you.
Rough.
In terms compared to the expectations and wildly under-delivering and all the BS, Vinny. It's been a year.
Yeah.
Put it that way. It has been a year.
The consistency of Mike Budenholzer shines through. There he is, asked about his future, and he says, we got to find ways to be better. The we gotta thing, the button is still being hit.
Yeah. How about it, right? You can't even come up with something better. Now that it's all over with, you can't give us anything different. Look,
just a deep exhale and like, wow.
There was a time. Right, exactly. There was a time when I was trying to vibe on Mike Budenholzer's approach. And as you had pointed out from your role as PA announcer for the Suns, that he doesn't even like to be introduced. So I trying to see the best in him, because he has been a good coach before, really thought, isn't this interesting how this guy just will not make any of this about himself. Maybe this is 4D chess. Maybe this is the way to really rally and galvanize a basketball team, by making nothing about you. Well, that's not the narrative. The narrative is this is a basketball team that never obviously vibed with the head coach, and the head coach never really course corrected to change any of it. And look, I as I've said many, many times, I know exactly what's going to happen here in the next 48 hours. What's going to happen here is Mike Budenholzer is going to get fired, and he is going to be sort of scapegoat number one for everything that went wrong this season. I am going to reject that. I am not going to absolve Mike Budenholzer, but everybody in the media who wants to claim this is all Mike Budenholzer's fault, either you're being disingenuous or you're being very, very unintelligent, because basketball teams are about players. And if Mike Budenholzer was really this atrocious of a basketball coach, they should have fired him in the middle of the season. They should have fired him on January 1st. They should have fired him at some point to save the season. At some point in time, the guys on this basketball team should have stood up, the leaders, and said, this is not how we're rolling here. If you're going to tell me that this is all the head coach's fault, then I'm going to blame everyone else around him for not course correcting before it was too late.
You're absolutely right. And we've been saying it for a long time. When it became evident, and it became evident sooner to others than others, that this thing was not going in the right direction. Yes, it's Mike Budenholzer's fault. Yes, it's everybody else's fault too. I mean, a 13-win difference from a season last year that was viewed as wildly disappointing and underachieving.
Yep.
That makes, with a better roster?
Exactly. There are signs here of a team that didn't vibe around the coach. Obviously, the lack of culture, the lack of connectivity. Nobody really hated each other, but nobody really kind of dug what they were doing. There's fingerprints all over this thing of a poorly coached basketball team, but I am not absolving the leaders of this basketball team for their role in all of this.
Now, yesterday was interesting because a lot of guys didn't play. Devin Booker didn't play. Kevin Durant didn't play. Bradley Beal didn't play. They weren't even in Sacramento, so they didn't have to face the media after the conclusion of the season. But Friday night was kind of like the last hurrah for that group. Even Kevin Durant didn't play. But Bradley Beal spoke to the media. Again, give him credit, answered all the questions, and he talked about one of the things that was so tough about this year for this team not having any success was that this team was connected, in his words.
I'm always confident in what we have, man. I always told you since the first day you met me, Dwayne, I'm probably the most naive person you'll ever meet in the world. I believe in what we got in there. Things happen, man. We didn't have a good year. We couldn't put it together like we like, but nobody hates the other man. Nobody dislikes anybody else. I love Phoenix. I love being here. I hope I can continue to be here. But I know Matt he's going to probably make some changes. But I enjoyed this group. It's a fun group to be a part of. The locker room was awesome. The camaraderie was great. And we loved each other. We uplifted each other. So that was a great positive that we had, man. And I think that's what kind of hurts us the most is that we were a connected team. We were together, and it just They just couldn't put it together on the floor.
That's maybe the most puzzling part of all of this.
I read those comments while I was gone, and I could not believe what I was reading, to be honest. What did you think of everything he just said there?
I mean, we talked about it during the course of the season, too. There were no signs of fracture. There were no signs of discontent among individuals on the team. Yes, there was some, disagreement on the bench in game situations. Show me a team where that doesn't happen. It was the fact that this team so woefully underachieved. Normally, that is the impetus for those fractures in the locker room.
Right.
And it didn't happen. So it kind of makes you ask the question, did anybody care?
That's it.
Did anybody
That's it.
give a rat's behind about what was happening to this team in real time?
That's the whole thing. If you listen to what Bradley Beal says there, that's the conclusion that blows my mind. That everybody loved each other, everybody was happy, no one was hating on anybody. Well, you have a season like that, and if you've got guys that care about winning, then there's going to be fractures. There's going to be stress points. People are going to get into each other's faces because they're not having success. And nobody felt compelled to do that. That's unbelievable. That right there is the proof that you assembled the wrong mix of basketball players, of guys that love basketball but don't have to win at all costs.
And on the assembling of basketball players, it was telling that he said Matt might want to. He didn't mention the GM as wanting to change the roster.
Right.
He mentioned Matt specifically by name on wanting to change the roster.
Yeah, and Devin Booker, he spoke to the media Friday as well, and he's been more outspoken late in the season, but he had a message for Suns fans.
Things will get better. It took a true fan to be in there tonight and still support us through what type of season we had. So, it was a pleasure to see, still smiles on faces and people cheering and, happy to, still watch us play.
There was that, and that's another puzzling aspect to all of this, and I'm not pinning this on the fans because largely the fans at PHX Arena this year, second half of the season when it was pretty clear what the end result was going to be for this team, they showed up every night. The sellout streak is intact, if you believe those numbers, which, look, they're reported sellouts. Even Friday night, the last game, and I know it's fan appreciation night, and there was actually a pretty good buzz in the building. Now, the two previous home games against Golden State and Oklahoma City, it was dead because the team was dead. They showed no fight in those games at all. But that's the other thing. Is like it was just they were shoveling crap all year, and the fans were like, "Okay, we're here again."
Well,
there wasn't really any show of what's going on is not okay.
And that was another thing that, in a weird way, bothered me. It was I thought, okay, how nice of this team to kind of rally around. Let's give our fan base at least one good memory on the way out of the season. And it's like you couldn't have mustered that kind of approach previously. It's baffling, Vinny. It really, really is.
One more from yesterday. Mike Budenholzer was asked in his post-game presser, do you expect to be back next year?
Yeah, I mean, again, appreciate the question. My focus has been on the guys. My focus has been on today. That never changes. So obviously we got to figure out how to get better. And that includes me. I got to be better. So, that's where the focus is how can we be better?
I'm just going to plant this seed and we can come back to it because this is the question that is looming over this team. There's no game to prepare for. The work starts today on ensuring this doesn't happen again. Is there any scenario that is sellable to the Suns fan base in which Mike Budenholzer is the coach next year?
I can't see one. Can you?
I can't. And I know how this team has operated. This organization has operated in recent years.
Yeah. There
is a high standard that is expected. And it's never been missed more than it's been missed this year.
Yeah, and listen, I think
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say it would take Devin Booker coming out and saying, I love Budenholzer. That's who I want to be the coach. I think that's the only way to sell it.
You're right, but I think we already know what we need to know about that relationship. When it became public that Mike Budenholzer told Devin Booker to pipe down,
and Devin Booker last week made it a point to say after one of the games, I need to be more vocal with everybody moving forward. Yeah.
And the fact that Devin Booker came out and said we have no winning habits here, so true.
That's echoing.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.